last time the line of succession was altered was 1936 amid the abdication crisis. But you're right. We've always been told that it would require an act of parliament. And the line from the palace had been previously, prior to October when they changed Andrew's titles, removed his titles, that they didn't want to waste parliamentary time. I think we're beyond that now, that this is seen as being so serious.
We'll kick off straight away with the latest twists and turns in the sorry saga of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and moves today to try and remove him from the line of succession to the throne. Joining us now is Sarah Hewson, the royal correspondent. Explain first of all, how the line of succession works. He's currently number 8, so he would only ever get to be king if 7 other people were unable or unwilling to take over.
Yes, Guto, morning to you. Something fairly catastrophic would have to happen in order for Andrew to take up position on the throne. He is 8th in line to the throne, as you say, behind Prince William and his children, Prince Harri and his children. But I think this is about the symbolism of it. We now understand that the government is looking at introducing legislation to remove him from the line of succession, and that does have the support of Buckingham Palace. They haven't commented publicly about this, but there have certainly been discussions going on at the very highest levels about this. Now, this wouldn't take place until after any police investigation has concluded, which is entirely right. But the Defence Minister, Luke Pollard, said last night that this is the right course of action, regardless of the outcome of the police action. So what I think we can see here is them trying to put a firewall around the royal family, between the royal family and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, so that no more damage can be done.
At one level, it's a total no-brainer, who would oppose it? On the other hand, it's an utterly futile gesture that could divert parliamentary time and effort. And frankly, for the royal family, careful what you wish for. If you start debating who actually gets to, even in theory, be the sovereign, the head of state in the UK, then MPs are not going to stick to the narrow confines of that debate. They might start asking really tough questions about why we have a hereditary head of state in the first place.
And the last time the line of succession was altered was 1936 amid the abdication crisis. But you're right. We've always been told that it would require an act of parliament. And the line from the palace had been previously, prior to October when they changed Andrew's titles, removed his titles, that they didn't want to waste parliamentary time. I think we're beyond that now, that this is seen as being so serious. YouGov polling has found that 80% of the public would support Andrew being removed from the line of succession, regardless of whether that is a symbolic act or not. And actually, I think there are questions being asked this week about whether it is right that in Parliament they are not able to debate, scrutinise or criticise members of the royal family. And actually, had they been able to do this sooner, would this have got so far? The defence will be, and the way they will protect themselves from this will be that Andrew is no longer a working member of the royal family. He is no longer a prince. He is no longer the Duke of York, and that separates him entirely from the rest of the royal family. But yes, it is huge. And it isn't just requiring an act of parliament here. It would also require the consent of all of the other Commonwealth realms in order to do this. So it's not an easy process. It's not a quick process, but I think it is one that the government and Buckingham Palace want to be seen to be taking seriously.
There's also an interesting thing today that people who served as personal protection officers are going to be asked, did they turn a blind eye or did they witness anything that is now relevant? Again, this is one of those things that sounds sensible, but it's crossing a line, is it not? Because police protection officers, it's a very intimate relationship and you're there to defend your principal, as they call them, not actually to police your principal. Could this get very, very tricky for those people who, did serve with Andrew in happier times for him?
Well, it has been argued lately that that relationship could potentially be too intimate. Who saw what when? You know, we have seen from the Epstein files that there were certainly protection officers with Andrew when he visited Jeffrey Epstein's properties in New York and his island, for example. Who saw what? Who said what? Who reported anything that they might or might not have seen? Was there anyone who turned a blind eye or a deaf ear to it? Those are really important questions. And so we had this statement from the Metropolitan Police last night that they were calling on Andrew's former police protection officers to think very carefully about anything that they may have witnessed that might be able to help with their review of the evidence, because they're just at the review stage with the Metropolitan Police. Thames Valley Police, the police force that conducted the arrest of Andrew on suspicion of misconduct in public office. But I think entirely right that former police officers and former protection officers should be asked to give their evidence, because that could be absolutely critical in any investigation.
Are we looking at both things we've just been discussing, Sarah, opening up cans of worms here that could end up being, quite distasteful, quite disturbing for all of us in terms of what we discover at the end, not just about potentially Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, but the entire ecosystem around him and around the British democracy, essentially.
Well, I think that's always been the fear. And this hasn't come out of nowhere. This has been going on for more than 15 years now, that allegations have been circling around Andrew and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And he has, of course, always denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. But there have been police investigations before that have not gone anywhere. There have been attempts to get Andrew to give evidence in the United States, which have been avoided. There has been a civil lawsuit which reached a settlement without any admission of guilt, but a sum of around £12 million paid to Virginia Giuffre. And at no point has Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor been questioned, despite the serious nature of these investigations and allegations around him. And I think you have to ask yourselves now, we have to ask ourselves, had due process been done earlier in this investigation? Had he cooperated, as he said to Emily Maitlis that he would, with the authorities in the United States at an earlier point, would we be where we are now? And I think that is one of the other very serious questions that needs to be asked as we find ourselves in such a grave and seismic situation here, with our royal family at the heart of it.
Food for thought there. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, for taking us through those twin strands. Much appreciated.